Hello, hello, beautiful soul. Woof, we have a very deep, very beautiful episode today, and I cannot tell you how much contraction has played out for me with this one. So I'm going to talk about inner teenager, and I'm also just going to be really real about something. So when something is important to us and we want to do it well, quite often our perfectionist part is going to show up. You can go back to episode one of my podcast I ever did called Is Perfectionism Ruining Your Life? If you need a little more on this part. But what happened to me is this is the deepest healing work that I've done. It's the work that really has changed and transformed my relationship with myself, with my body, with men, with everything that really, really matters to me, my business. And because of that, there's a huge part of me that wants to get it right, that wants to give you all the information, that wants to make sure that you have everything that you require in order to do this work. And that is a very high expectation, which is what I put on myself a lot when I was young. So I'm going to take all of that expectation away. I'm going to be kind and loving to myself, and I'm going to be present with you while we move through this topic. So when I was writing the notes for it, I wrote inner teen anger instead of inner teenager. And it made me laugh a lot because a lot of the big feelings, especially for me, anger, really become very alive for us in a different way when we become teenagers. It is a time of firsts. It is a time where we're discovering our sexuality, we're discovering desire, we're discovering what our bodies do, we're discovering hormones, we're discovering what we really like and what we don't like. And we have so many experiences where we hold so much shame around things we did, shame around things that were done to us, shame around things that we said yes to when we didn't mean it. All of this stuff can be very, very locked into this time in our life. Then we have academic pressure, we have things that were put upon us. And that's just if you went from A to B, right? If you got through your teenage years with very few events, that's just like basic teenage life, right? And it's interesting because I actually went back for a time and I worked with teenagers for 7 years. And that is curious to me now that I do this deep work. And I should say, I'm Jo Bell, if you don't know me, and I am a coach. And I help women to transform their external worlds by transforming their internal worlds and loving themselves so deeply and completely that everything changes. It is beautiful, deep, and sacred work. And this is a huge part of what I do. So we have this time. We have this time of firsts. We have this time of discovery. Now, there is a beautiful model called Erickson's Stages of Development. And in this model, they talk about each stage of being a human and what happens when we successfully complete the stage. So for example, there's one when you're younger where you're really learning autonomy and you're learning to do things for yourself and you're learning to tie your shoes, you're learning that you're capable in the world. If you complete that stage, then you feel good about who you are and you have a sense of autonomy. If you don't, then later in life, you may find that you struggle to really be autonomous in certain ways. And it's a very interesting model to use and to look at if you are in a place where you feel stuck. If you are in a place where you're like, I don't know why I'm in this pattern, but it just keeps playing out. And for our teenage years, there are two stages that really cover this. The stages are all about learning social relationships and learning about ourselves and our personal beliefs and our personal desires and our identity. So if we complete these stages well, we feel really safe and secure in our relationships. We know who we are. We can be truly, truly true to ourselves. We have clear belief systems. But if the conditions weren't perfect, and if for any reason that wasn't your story, it wasn't mine, then we don't successfully pass that stage. And later in life, we can really, really struggle with our sovereignty. We can struggle to really see the value in who we are. We can struggle to be in relationship with others. We can struggle to feel secure in relationship, valued, healthy. And there can be a lot of loneliness and isolation that comes from not completing this stage, not just at the time, but later on in life. And that is really what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how your past can influence your present, and also how we can heal it so that you can move into something new, so that you can move into a future that you truly, truly deserve and desire, that is truly, truly for you. Okay? So I hope that that idea makes sense. It's, if you complete these stages, if conditions were good, then you feel secure in who you are. But if things happened, then you maybe don't. And there is big T trauma. So things like abuse, neglect, violence, chronic things that happened. There's also little T trauma. There's being put down all the time. There's being bullied. That can also be big T trauma depending on the nature of it. But I don't want us to get into too much categorization. What I do want to say is anything that happened that felt real to you is real. And you don't need to go around comparing and think, well, I shouldn't have a problem here, because actually I was loved and I went to a healthy home and all of this stuff. If there are things for you that are playing out and you know that they're there, then they're there. And the biggest disservice that we can do to ourselves is to pretend that they aren't. So I really want you to know that it's really, really important that we are clear about that. We're clear about the fact that we get to feel how we feel, no shaming ourselves, and really allowing whatever is here and present to come forward. So hope that is all landing in your space. And you might be thinking, oh my goodness, my teenagers, I can't even fully remember. And that's okay. So I want to talk about some myths around inner child and inner teenage work. So inner child is anything from 0 to 25 years old. Again, you can go back into another episode that I've done and listen to it if you want to know about healing your inner child. I go into it in depth in there. So anything from 0 to 25, because around 25 years old, our brains are formed. They're fully formed, they're programmed. So all the way from 0 to 25, our brains are reprogramming themselves the whole time. And it's like, what is important for me to know? And positive and negative, so not just good things, stay in the brain. If you ever watch the film Inside Out, I think it's a really good representation of this. What is important for me to know? Like, what do I need to know for my safety? What do I need to know in terms of how I relate to people? What do I need to know about the world? And we hold on to these beliefs, right? We hold on to things that we learn at this stage because it's when our brain is forming. And when you're a teenager, that your brain goes through this kind of pruning process where it takes away a lot of the childhood stuff and it starts to replace it with things that are happening in real time. Now, when we're doing inner teenager work or inner child work, we're going back to a teenage part of you that is frozen in time, that has experienced some kind of shock, some kind of disruption, some kind of fear, something big in their system that has led them to form a belief. Okay, has led them to form a belief. And this is really intuitive, and whatever age comes forward for you is always the kind of age that needs to be alive at this time. But they're frozen in time and they're holding on to something. And the biggest myth that keeps a lot of people away from inner child work is that you need to go back and dissect everything that happened, and you need to relive it again, and you got to stay in it. And the opposite is true. This stuff for me, and I'll speak personally, this was running my life. And it still has been in some ways. I have a very good relationship with my inner teenager now, but I speak to her all the time. Because the patterns, the beliefs, the triggers, like everything, it's in you. So if you ignore it and pretend that it doesn't exist, then that means that nothing will change. And when we have awareness and we can work with this part, we can do it in a very tender way that does not require you to go back into traumatic events. Actually, what we do is we remove your teenager from those events. Same with inner child work. We get to take them out. We don't need to leave them where they are. So it's very profoundly healing and very, very beautiful. But I will share with you, this is my personal journey. I was doing inner child work for about 6 years before I even touched it, because I had so much shame and so much judgment around this part of my life, and specifically for me, around how I looked, and my body. And I don't have a single picture of me as a teenager. I threw them all away because I was so ashamed of her. I can even feel it now, the charge of it, right? I was so ashamed of her. And she felt that. So we cannot go to this work when we're still carrying judgment towards this part of ourselves. We have to get ourselves to a place where we can recognize what happened. And I'm going to talk about how to do this and really remove the judgment. And that can be hard and it can be a process. So I just want you to know that if you're like, nah, I do not want to talk to my inner teenager, it could be that it's the most supportive and helpful part for you to go to. And it's going to take its own time. And that is okay. That is okay. Okay? Great. Okay, beautiful. So as a teenager, we're at the stage where like, who do I need to be to survive and fit in? Like, who do I need to be? And as a child, whenever you are developing, this is our strategy. Like our subconscious program strategy is, I'm going to try out this and I'm going to see if this works. And if it works, then I'm going to keep on doing it. So for example, I'm going to try being the one that makes everyone laugh. And if it works, then I'm just going to keep on doing it because then I'm safe. Then I'm safe. If I'm the one that makes everyone laugh, then I'm safe because people like me and they accept me. Except that's not really me, it's just a mask. Or it might be, I'm going to be the one that has no needs. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to get on with it all myself because that's how I get love. That's how I stay safe. And we just keep on doing it. So survival strategies can be very deep in our bodies. And for me, I definitely, and I still don't know all the ins and outs of this, but I learned to keep everything that I needed inside. And I learned to not ask for my needs, to make myself very, very small. Now, years later, that was playing out in relationships, destroying relationships, because I wasn't actually able to say what I needed. And therefore, the other person was just like swimming in this, I don't really know where to go, right? So huge, huge things that if we work with them can like be the most deepest, most profound healing. They really, really can. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more of my personal story, and then I'm going to give you some really clear techniques so that you can start, if you want to work with this part. So you may not know this about me, you might. I struggled with my relationship to my body, I would say into my early 30s. I had bulimia for a time. I had really disordered eating, a lot of starving myself, over-exercising, all of those things, right? And this came from this belief that I got when I was a kid of, oh, women are small. Now I'm a 6-foot-tall woman. And things were said. Things were said about my body when I was young. And I was a sensitive kid and I took it all to heart. And I remember I had these stretch marks like all the way up my back because I grew so fast and I was so ashamed that I wouldn't go swimming, which I loved. I really loved it, right? So a lot of my pain came from trying to change my body, trying to shrink myself, trying to make myself smaller and feeling like I was not okay. Like my physical presence was not okay. And no matter what I did, no matter how much I dieted, no matter how much I did anything, I couldn't change my size. Like you can't change your height, right? As much as I prayed for that many, many times, it didn't happen. Now, fast forward to I'm around 35 years old and I'm starting my business. And I'm on Zoom and I'm on Instagram. And I am now looking at myself in the face. This woman who I have judged, who I've criticized, who I've shamed, who I've only said negative things to for a very, very long time. Although at that point, that relationship had changed. And I was very kind of compassionate to myself. But still, being visible felt like a threat. And I'm going to just bring in an added component here. Okay, so we have the inner child understanding, frozen in time. When we're doing something that is a threat to what our inner child or inner teenager thinks is going to keep us safe, our nervous system is going to have a biological response. So our nervous system is this beautiful thing that runs all through our body, right? All through our body. And if it thinks that there is a threat, it will go into fight or flight, or it will go into withdrawal. And either way, you're not in a safe and secure place of being able to be visible and being able to be on video and that kind of thing. And that's why I remember once when I was writing creatively, and I was standing on a stage and I was reading a story, my body was shaking, like my leg was shaking. It was like so weird. It was like something took over my body. That was my nervous system, like being in the fight or flight response and being like, this is a threat, this is a threat, this is a threat. Okay. So I want to just put this piece in because it's really important that we also work with our nervous system when we are taking the action part. So we have the healing that we can do ourselves. And then we have the new stuff that we want to do in the world. And with that piece, we've got to be able to find safety again in our nervous system. It's okay that there's movement in our nervous system. We're not going to be regulated the whole time. That is a complete myth. But we want to find safety. Just feel like we can bring ourselves back to safety. Otherwise, it becomes too overwhelming. And that is when you find yourself face down on your bed for 4 days because you're like, now I can't deal with the world. Okay. And there's variations of that, right? So I hope that this is landing for you. And I'm going to finish my story. So when I started my business and I really was learning to be visible, I would be recording videos and then I would be like watching them over and I would delete them and like again and again and again. I was just in this cycle. And I really had to work with parts of myself that didn't feel like it was safe. Now, I did not work directly with my inner teenager then. I will not lie to you. It took me longer. But I did start to work with the belief system that she had. And this is where things started to collide for me. So I started to realize that everything I'd been told about my body was untrue. That everything I'd been told about who I needed to be as a woman was untrue. I started looking at the belief system of, oh, wow, like look at those women that were in size zero, like there were size zero models. That was the generation I was in. They are so small. That's not how bodies are actually supposed to be. Okay. And I started following people who were like more body positive and I started being like, oh my gosh, my body was actually never wrong. I just made it wrong. Society like helped me to make it wrong. And I was so keen to stay safe. So if I'm the threat, my body is the threat, then I will make it smaller. I will make it smaller. Okay. So I started to unpick that belief system and I started to be like, okay, what would happen if I didn't believe this was true? And that is what changed my relationship with my body. All of that work. It was nothing to do with dieting. Nothing at all. So this is really important because I'm going to get onto practical tools soon. But that was my inner teenager. And it's also has previously and still shows up in relationship because that is the part of me that feels most insecure. Another way it showed up for me, just to give you another example, is that I got to a point in my business where I was in a confusion, distraction cycle. And I just was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I was working with my coach and we got to this point where I found this, my inner teenager. She might have been about 20. It was around my third year of university. And she was like scratching at the wall. She was so overwhelmed and so sad because she didn't know what to do. And she was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've got all of these options in life and it feels completely overwhelming. And what if I choose this and it's wrong? And I remembered that feeling. I remember that so deeply. And so I was able to go to her and say, hey, it's okay. It's okay. And I was able to explain to her my life now. And that was profoundly healing. So this is really deep work that genuinely makes a difference. It really does. And it's been some of the most profound work that I've done for my clients too. You know, especially if you have a very deep belief that you're a burden, if you have a belief that nobody wants you, people don't want to be with you. These are the types of things that your inner teenager carries. And when we can heal them, the whole world opens up. Like your relationships are different. The way you feel about yourself is different. The things you achieve are different because you're not acting from a wound. You're acting from the truth of who you are. Okay, so let's talk practical tools. And the first thing that I want you to know is that you don't have to go poking around. So it can be helpful from an awareness perspective to be like, okay, these are the events of my life. These are the things that happened. I wonder what I learned to believe because of these. If we can go in with the energy of curiosity, that can be an incredibly helpful process. Oh, like I learned to believe this. Okay, curious. But we don't have to go back and really poke at experiences just because we had them. The important thing with this work is that we are really identifying what is present now that is holding me back, that may be connected to them. What is present now that is holding me back that may be connected to them? So if you think about the big things that happen during teenage times, I've got to people please and fit in and do some kind of survival. So that might be your inner teenager piece. If you still feel that piece really alive, or you might just be in a cycle where you're like, I just can't get out of this. Or you might know consciously that you have a deep fear of disappointing your parents still, even though you're X years old. And actually, that's not really yours, it's hers. Okay? So we don't need to poke around, but we can have awareness. And then if I was working with you as a coach, I would be really concerned most of all with what is happening in the present. What do you want in the present? Why are you not getting it? And then that's where we go. That's where we go to bridge the belief. So the first stage is if you know that you have a lot of judgment like I did, so much judgment towards my teenage self, I want you to write a letter of gratitude to this part of you. So I did this, and I did it specifically around drinking because I had a lot of judgment at how much she drank, the fact that she was always drinking, she was like blackout drunk all the time. And I wrote her a letter and I thanked her. Because you know what that was? That was survival. That was, oh my gosh, I feel okay in my body when I drink. I feel like I can relate to people when I drink. So I'm going to be grateful to her because she got me through that time. And we always want to be grateful to ourselves for coping and for getting there. Now, yes, I'm sad that she wasn't thriving. I have done a lot of grief work around that. But she doesn't need to feel that. What she needs is my gratitude, my thanks, my acceptance. You get to be here. I'm so thankful that you're here. So write a letter of gratitude to this part of yourself for everything she did, and include anything specifically that she may be ashamed of. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that you found alcohol and that it helped you and it supported you. And you used that as a way to help you to make friends and help you to be in social circles and help you to feel okay. I'm so grateful. And genuinely, like, really get to the point. And if you can, that's okay. It just means there's more deep healing work to be done. And that is something I would highly recommend doing with a coach that is trained in this, like myself, or someone else that you really, really like. But you want to be really clear that you're grateful to her for where she's gotten you. And if you're not yet, then you just get to do a little more work around that piece, because nothing heals in judgment, and it won't heal in judgment. And also, you deserve the gratitude that you never got. You deserve to be seen in the way you were never seen. And I will be a stand for that forever. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is an emotionally expressive exercise. So a lot of the time, this is why I wrote Teen Anger. A lot of the time, what we learn to do as teenagers, we have all these big feelings, and this goes for inner child too. We have all these big feelings, everything's swirling around, and then we get conditioned into nope, zip, and we hold it in our body, right? We hold it in your body. So for me, when I started to work with my inner teenager, this was such a key piece. And so what you can do is set up 2 chairs. This is a technique called empty chair, and I'm going to use it in a very specific way as I describe it. Set up 2 chairs. Your present negative self is in one, your highest self, and then your teenager is in the other. And you really like get yourself into a space where you can really imagine her sitting opposite you, and you're like, okay, I can see her there. She's X years old or whatever. And then you just want to say, thank you so much for being here. Just open my eyes. Thank you so much for being here. I would really like to know how you're feeling. You move to the other chair and you just let her express. So for me, this was not words. She wasn't telling me about her life. She wasn't telling me about all the boys she had crushes on. She was wailing. She was just crying. She got to have the experience of releasing that emotion in a way that she never did, because I really was able to channel her. Now, again, this takes a little bit of practice, so you may prefer a practitioner to hold you in it. If you don't, if you're good, and this is really accessible to you, then beautiful. Let her express. Then you move back to the first chair and you say, thank you so much for expressing that. Is there anything else? Check in with her. And just really thank her. Thank her. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And let her express. Another way that you can do this, if that all feels a bit much, is to journal as her. I don't do this because I journaled as her a lot when I was her. And it felt too hard. It just felt too hard to go back into that headspace. So for me, the expressive piece where she really got to express and actually do that, instead of holding it all in her head, which was what she did as a teenager, was so much more healing. So much more healing. But if you think it would be supported, you can try it. You can try it. And again, it can just be a release. Okay. So you're only saying thank you, and then you just might ask if there's anything she needs. Now, if I was coaching you, I would go into a deeper process. But if you're at the point where you feel like this is good, you feel like you can be with her without judging her, and you just want to hear what she has to say, then it is a really, really beautiful technique to use. Okay, so thank you. Is there anything you need? You're not trying to correct her. You're not trying to dismiss her emotions. You're not trying to say, oh, but everything is fine now. You don't need to worry. Because it's real for her. It's really, really real for her. So let her express. Let her move. Let her emotions move. Okay? And then the third thing that will really help you and support you with this work is to think about her belief system. What is she believing about who she is and who she needs to be in the world that is not hers, that does not belong to her, that belongs to her mom, that belongs to the magazines, that belongs to the boyfriend she had, whatever. What is she believing about how she needs to operate in the world? And once you have those beliefs, like write them all down, then you can decide to hand them back, right? Then you can decide to have them back. And words are so important, and words become beliefs, particularly when you are a teenager. So I'll give you one more personal example that I think will be supportive. When I was around 15, I was having a conversation in class, and I remember this, and you remember things that were important. I was having a conversation in class with a friend of mine, and I was like, oh, I would really love to play Baby in Dirty Dancing. I was like obsessed with that film. And she was like, no resistance, nothing. She just said, you're too big. And I was like, oh, I guess that's true then. I can't dance. And I took it with the evidence that I had about things that other people had said about my body. And for the next 20 years, probably around, I wouldn't dance unless I had alcohol. And I love dance. I love it. In the last 3 or 4 years, I'm like up on stages, totally sober, ecstatic dancing. I go to salsa and bachata and all, but I still feel a texture, a contraction sometimes in my body, which is this. So I would love to say that didn't affect me at all. Like I'm so above that, but that's not how we are as beings. We take things in that other people tell us because we're wired for threat, and we make them mean something about ourselves, and that then accesses the influences the joy that we can access in our bodies and minds. Okay, so it's very real. I don't want you shaming yourself at all. If you're like, but why am I still holding on to this thing that somebody said to me 20 years ago? It's how we are wired. Some people take this into, well, be with us for the rest of their lives. So I just want you to know that that is true. Without making it dramatic, it can still be true. Okay, so look at the beliefs. Like, what is she believing? What beliefs were given to her? Write them down and then be like, huh, I'm not going to carry these anymore. And you can again write a letter and you can hand them back. You can hand them back to whoever gave them to you. You can hand them back to society. You can burn the letter and really like be a stand for, I am not going to carry this anymore. Neither is she. So there are 3 tools that you can use: gratitude letter, emotional expression, so through empty chair, only if you feel ready and supported, and then the belief systems that she is carrying. And really start to build a relationship with her. Now, just like a relationship with a human, this is not a one and done. So this is something that I continue, that my clients continue, because there are things that flare up. But we get to work with them, and what a great privilege to get to know yourself on this level and to get to heal on this level. That is today's episode. I hope it was supportive. This is the thing. I thought I was broken. And I know a lot of people come into self-development that way and they just think they're broken and that life will never change for them. So I felt. But you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You just went through some stuff and you learned some things that were unhelpful. And this is where we get to work with this tender, beautiful part of you. And we get to release her from everything that she's carrying. And then we get to see what magic starts to unfold in your life. So I'm so excited. Let me know your breakthroughs. Let me know your ahas. Let me know if you do any of the processes, how they go for you. Take your time. Be really kind, really, really gentle, and have a lot of capacity for yourself. Nothing heals in judgment. I'm sending you so much love.